Now we're really getting to the good part. If you remember last time, Wesley, darling Wesley, adored Wesley, sweet perfect Wesley, whisper that I have a chance to win your love. And with that she dared the bravest thing she had ever done. She looked right into his eyes. He closed the door in her face, without a word, without a word. Buttercup ran. She whirled and burst away, and the tears came bitterly. She could not see, she stumbled. She slammed into a tree trunk, fell, rose, ran on. Her shoulder throbbed from where the tree trunk hit her, and the pain was strong, but not enough to ease her shattered heart. Back to her room she fled, back to her pillow. Safe behind the locked door, she drenched the world with tears. Not even one word. He hadn't had the decency for that. Sorry, he could have said. Would it have ruined him to say sorry? Too late, he could have said. Why couldn't he at least have said something? Buttercup thought very hard about that for a moment. And suddenly she had the answer. He didn't talk because the minute he opened his mouth, that was it. Sure, he was handsome, but dumb? The minute he had exercised his tongue, it would have all been over. Duh! That's what he would have said. That was the kind of thing Wesley came out with when he was feeling really sharp. Duh, thanks, Buttercup. Buttercup dried her tears and began to smile. She took a deep breath, heaved a sigh. It was all part of growing up. You got these little, quick passions. You blinked and they were gone. You forgave faults, found perfection, fell madly. Then the next day, the sun came up and it was all over. Chalk it up to experience, old girl, and get on with the morning. Buttercup stood, made her bed, changed her clothes, combed her hair, smiled, and burst out again in a fit of weeping, because there was a limit to how much you could lie to yourself. Wesley wasn't stupid. Oh, she could pretend he was. She could laugh about his difficulties with the language. She could chide herself for this silly infatuation with a dullard. The truth was simply this. He had a head on his shoulders, with a brain inside every bit as good as his teeth. There was a reason he hadn't spoken, and it had nothing to do with gray cells and working. He hadn't spoken because really there was nothing for him to say. He didn't love her back, and that was that. The tears that kept Buttercup company the remainder of the day were not at all like those that had blinded her into the tree trunk. Those were noisy and hot. They pulsed. These were silent and steady, and all they did was remind her that she was not good enough. She was 17, and every male she had ever known had crumbled at her feet, and it meant nothing. The one time it mattered, she wasn't good enough. All she knew really was riding, and how was that to interest a man when the man had been looked at by the Countess? It was dusk when she heard footsteps outside her door, then a knock. Buttercup dried her eyes. Another knock. Whoever is that? Buttercup yawned finally. Wesley. Buttercup lounged across the bed. Wesley, she said. Do I know any Oh, farm boy, it's you. How droll. She went to her door, unlocked it, and said in her fanciest tone, I'm ever so glad you stopped by. I've been feeling just ever so slummy about the little joke I played on you this morning. Of course, you knew it wasn't for a moment serious, or at least I thought you knew. But then, just when you started closing the door, I thought for one dreary instant that perhaps I'd done my little jest a bit too convincingly, and poor dear thing, you might have thought I meant what I said, when of course we both know the total impossibility of that ever happening. I've come to say goodbye. Buttercup's heart bucked, but she still held to her fancy. You're going to sleep, you mean, and you've come to say goodnight. How thoughtful of you, farm boy, showing me that you forgive me for my little morning's tease. I certainly appreciate your thoughtfulness, and he cut her off. I'm leaving. Leaving? The floor began to ripple. She held to the doorframe. Now? Yes. Because of what I said this morning? Yes. I frightened you away, didn't I? I could kill my tongue. She shook her head and shook her head. Well, it's done. You've made your decision. Just remember this. I won't take you back when she's done with you. I don't care if you beg. He just looked at her. Buttercup hurried on. Just because you're beautiful and perfect, it's made you conceited. You think people can't get tired of you? Well, you're wrong. They can, and she will. Besides, you're too poor. I'm going to America to seek my fortune. This was just after America, but long after fortunes. A ship sails soon from London. There is great opportunity in America. I'm going to take advantage of it. I've been training in myself. In my hovel, I've taught myself not to need sleep, a few hours only. I'll take a 10-hour-a-day job, and then I'll take another 10-hour-a-day job, and I'll save every penny from both except what I need to keep strong. And when I have enough, I'll buy a farm, and I'll build a house, and I'll make a big bed, big enough for two. You're just crazy if you think she's going to be happy in some rundown farmhouse in America, not with what she spends on clothes. Stop talking about the Countess, as a special favor, before you drive me mad. Buttercup looked at him. Don't you understand anything that's going on? Buttercup shook her head. Wesley shook his too. You never have been the brightest, I guess. Do you love me, Wesley? Is that it? He couldn't believe it. Do I love you? My God, if your love were a grain of sand, mine would be a universe of beaches. If your love were... I don't understand the first one yet, Buttercup interrupted. She was starting to get very excited now. Let me get this straight. Are you saying my love is the size of a grain of sand and yours is this other thing? Images confuse me so. Is this universal business of yours bigger than my sand? Help me, Wesley. I have the feeling we're on the verge of something just terribly important. I have stayed all these years in my hovel because of you. I have taught myself languages because of you. I have made my body strong because I thought you might be pleased by a strong body. I have lived my life with only the prayer that some sudden dawn you might glance in my direction. I have not known a moment in years when the sight of you did not send my heart against my rib cage. I have not known a night when your visage did not accompany me to sleep. There has not been a morning when you did not flutter behind my waking eyelids. Is any of this getting through to you, Buttercup, or do you want me to go on for a while? Never stop. There has not been... If you're teasing me, Wesley, I'm just going to kill you. How can you dream I might be teasing? Well, you haven't once said you loved me. That's all you need? Easy, I love you, okay? Want it louder? I love you. Spell it out, should I? I-L-O-V-E-Y-O-U. Want it backward? You love I. You are teasing me now, aren't you? A little, maybe. I've been saying it so long to you, but you wouldn't listen. Every time you said, Farm boy, do this, you thought I was answering as you wish, but that's only because you weren't hearing right. I love you was what it was, but you never heard and you never heard. I hear you now, and I promise you this, I will never love anyone else, only Wesley until I die. He nodded, took a step away. I'll send for you soon, believe me. Would my Wesley ever lie? He took another step. I'm late, I must go, I hate it, but I must. The ship sails soon, and London is far. I understand. He reached out with his right hand. Buttercup found it very hard to breathe. Goodbye. She managed to raise her right hand to his. They shook. Goodbye, he said again. She made a little nod. He took a third step, not turning. She watched him. He turned, and the words ripped out of her. Without one kiss? They fell into each other's arms. There have been 5 great kisses since 1642 BC, when Saul and Delilah Corn's invention swept across Western civilization. Before then, couples hooked thumbs. And the precise rating of kisses is a terribly difficult thing, often leading to great controversy because although everyone agrees with the formula of affection times purity times intensity times duration, no one has really been completely satisfied with how much weight each element should receive. But on any system, there are 5 that everyone agrees deserve full marks. Well, this one left them all behind.